Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Skidmore. I'm the director of the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development. And today's webinar is a part of a webinar series on placemaking. We have several universities in the North Central region who have developed tailored placemaking curriculum and programs in each of their areas. And we thought it'd be really helpful to share the different types of placemaking curriculum across the region and learn something from each other. And so today we have Jodi from North Dakota State, Cheryl from University of Nebraska, Lincoln, and Ken from the University of South Dakota. So we have a team here. Sorry about that. And so the title of their the title of their work is Marketing Hometown America, a community conversation guide for making your community a welcoming place for newcomers. And so I'll stop there and let...
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mark. This is Cheryl Burkhart-Kriesel, and we are going to do this as kind of a team effort today, and we're going to pass the baton on to Jodi and then kind of wrap up with Kenny at the end. But we appreciate this opportunity to share kind of what we've been doing in our 3 states and to give you a little taste of a program that's kind of backed up by a couple of different research projects. So I think I'll just go ahead and get started. And Rosa, did you give me presenter rights?
I did. Can you navigate?
Because it's not there. Whoa, it went.
Okay, wait a minute. I know what it is, Cheryl. Sorry.
Yeah, you want to. Well, you guys will get a preview of what's to come.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll see if we can get going here. Okay. So we're really just going to give a little snapshot of really why our state, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska went down this path. It's kind of an unusual subject, community marketing. We're going to talk about some program processes, and Jodi's kind of going to lead the charge in that area. And then we're going to highlight really how communities are making it their own. And Kenny will also talk about some community outcomes and themes using our ripple effect mapping process. And then really how others get involved. So I see a couple of folks in the participants list there that are from Minnesota. So this will be a great way to kind of do a little bit of review. And you might even see a photo of yourself. It looks like, Rosa, some of our volume is up and down a little bit, so I don't know if there's a way you can do that from an adjustment side there, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, so let's just get started on a little bit of background, and for those of you that are part of the Great Plains, this is going to be a familiar looking map. That black boundary there really shows sort of the Great Plains. And basically, this is a look at percent of population change from 1950 to 2007. And the bottom line is everything in blue has seen an increase. The darker blue, the more of an increase in population. And the brown and the tan is a decrease in population. So there's really no... Our central states here have seen quite a decrease in population over time, and from kind of a long view. But the key piece here is, is that where we stop, or is there more to this story? And we like to think there really is. And so what we're going to do is actually look at another piece of data, and this is really age groups over time. This is the median net migration by certain age groups in non-metro counties. So again, this is national data. It looks from 1950 to 2010. And what you see there are decades. So that light green, basically the very most bottom line in the graph, is the 1950s all the way to a dark blue, which is the 2000s. So one of the things that you see right off the bat is there's a lot of consistency over time in terms of migration. And what that really means is that you see people, young adults primarily, in age 20 to 24-year age group, really going off for education, leaving non-metro areas, or maybe that first job, or some advanced schooling or training. But then you see young families coming back to rural areas, non-metro areas, and more in that what I would call 30 to 34 age group. And then you see another uptick. Really, it kind of goes as what I would call the early retiree years. And so there's a striking resemblance over time, over decades, with this pattern. But there's also these opportunities, young families and early retirees. So from my perspective, it's sort of like these folks are already coming to non-metro areas in the U.S. What is it that the rural non-metro areas can do to really enhance this? The folks that are already there, how can we do that even better? So we did a little research in western Nebraska, and we found out that a lot of the people that were coming in to rural areas were newcomers from metro areas. And it was really all the quality of life indications that, and the image of rural living that was really pulling them here. And this was important. This was a primary motivation for them to relocate. We also asked them, why did you move to this particular reason? And what we got was a whole range of and package of attributes. And one of the ones that landed up kind of toward the top of the list was a simpler pace of life and less congested place. And I will tell you, those two items really took a lot of the current residents in these rural communities back a bit, because they just don't think of their community that way. There's a whole range of different things, from lower cost of living, job skills that better fit, safer place to live. And many of these are attributes in rural communities that the current leadership or those people that have lived in the community a long time just don't pick up on, because they've been there for such a long time, I think, primarily. So we had some lingering questions. Metro newcomers were really looking for this package of attributes. Community leaders really may not see these as relocation assets in their community, and they truly are. And then the web presence in any number of different formats, whether it's a community website or social media, really wasn't showing potential new residents what's available. So it's pretty obvious. Is there a better way to connect? Can we do that better? So that landed us into another round of research, and really looking at how images, especially on the web, can help market a community. And I will tell you, there's really not a lot of information out there. And so companies, when they market, they spend a lot of dollars and a lot of time making sure that brand image is one that really pulls people in. But on the rural community side, there just wasn't a lot out there. So we actually had to do some market research ourselves. So we took, again, going back to those attributes, we took photographs, images that we could find that sort of played into these areas. And so here's just an example for this attribute, less congested place to live. We found out that new residents of those communities, what that means to them is they think of main streets with minimal traffic, maybe outdoor scenery or a panorama. They also see a street in a town that's like a main street that's comfortably full, showing ample spots for cars to pull in and shop and eat. So that gives you at least a little bit of idea what might grab a person's attention if they're cruising your rural community website. And this is being less congested is a big issue for them. So that still left us with lots of bits and pieces of information. So one of them was that rural areas need new residents, and people are looking for places to relocate. So there's sort of this need and on both ends of the spectrum. That rural communities may not see their new resident assets, and primarily it's a lot because they've just been there for a long time and they just don't see their home in that same light. Marketing and promotion is really viewed as a challenge, and a lot of communities sort of wring their hands when they think of that. But potential new residents, we're using technology as a relocation filter. And, you know, we all know that anything on the web, usually you're not there for a very long time, and so those images are critically important. So that really got us down this path of community marketing. And it was really trying to put the bits and pieces of research together into something that a community could use.
Sure, thanks, Cheryl. So this is Jodi Bruns, and I'll talk to you about what our next step was. So we, as our team, developed a discussion guide based on some of the research and process that was developed by Everyday Democracy. So you might be familiar with the study circle process. And so this is a picture of our actual discussion guide that we developed. When participants go through this community conversation, each participant receives a discussion guide, so they are aware of the questions they'll be asked. They could take these home, they're theirs to keep. So the actual program flow of this program really starts off with, typically I'll receive a call from a community or a local extension agent saying, here's what's happening in our program, might be something that would be beneficial to us, can you come and talk to us? And so I'll ask that local contact to create some kind of maybe a steering committee of local champions that are willing to listen to me and just have some kind of discussion about some of their goals. So we talk about what's happening, what's the local climate, what's the environment, what's happening in the community. And so from there, then we talk about what's our plan. So I lay out the plan for what study circles looks like. So we meet 4 times. Will there be enough people to complete several study circle groups? In some communities, there are several going on at the same time. So we talk about that, what that looks like. And then we discuss the study circle facilitators and who might be good people to facilitate this program. And then we discuss the training for those folks and what that looks like. So typically I'll go into a community and train facilitators who are willing to lead this discussion. We'll talk about who to bring to the table for that in just a minute. And then we talk about recruiting participants. How do we get people involved in this discussion? And typically there's some brainstorming around existing groups, and maybe it's people who are already on existing boards. Who's been champions in the communities, who would be great participants and care deeply about the community that would want to discuss marketing their community. And then we have a kickoff where we open this up to the whole community, educate them about the process, about the upcoming study discussion guides. And so I know some communities have done this in conjunction with maybe kickoff night at school. They'll have a table with information and talk about the program. Sometimes it's been in conjunction with maybe a basketball game. It's really wise to piggyback on another program that's already happening where people will be. And so it's an opportunity to do that. So here's a copy of the facilitators training guide that was developed. And so when we come in and train facilitators, we also give facilitators this actual guide. We work through this. Some of the topics we discuss are just some basic facilitation practices. Some people who want to be involved maybe have not been a typical facilitator and are starting from the ground up. So we talk about just some basic facilitation practices, dealing with some difficult people. That sometimes things keeping people on track. And then dealing with diverse groups sometimes is an issue. So those are just a few of the things that we work through. So the purpose of the training is really to empower local people to facilitate a group discussion, get them more familiar with leading that whole process, help them to understand what the study circle process is all about, and then get them acquainted with the marketing hometown process. Something we like to just really drive home that this is an opportunity for people to be trained in a particular process that's very valuable, that will be left in the community. The university isn't coming in, hosting meetings, and then leaving. But people will be trained and they will have that resource forever as long as they're there in the community. So that's a nice selling point. And so who can facilitate? You know, we talk about some of the obvious suspects, so maybe you have a really good educator in the community, or maybe someone from your a clergy person, but don't discount those who maybe haven't been great volunteers but might have some skills that could really shine, and this would be a great way to foster and mentor some new people to work in your community. We mentioned who's invited, and if they're not invited, that's come up. Some people who have maybe been a little hurt because they haven't been invited to the table, well, you know, bring them in somehow. Oftentimes it's nice to have a couple of facilitators per study circle, and then someone who's willing to transcribe, who's willing to take notes and run the markers in the poster paper and take care of that aspect. So my feeling is more the merrier. It's great to have some support when you're doing this. Let's see. So this discussion guide consists of 4 sessions. Typically, it's a couple hours a evening or an afternoon per session. The first session, we really cover what's your connection to the community. So we talk about how long you've lived here. They answer questions about how does the community stack up. You know, we talk about how have you seen people come into the community? Are they welcomed? What does that look like? In the third session, we look at some assets. What do we have? And then just really putting that marketing plan into place. These are some components of a marketing plan. We lay this out because oftentimes we hear people say, I'm not a marketing person and I am just not comfortable with that. So we do provide them with some information about just some aspects to think about. Who's here now? What are some things that we need? How do we fill in the gaps? And so that's pretty useful. Okay, and so this is just an example of one of the pages in the discussion guide. So you can see that there's facilitator tips there. So the facilitator has some idea what they're going into, and then talking about what did you learn, and we usually have an assignment for the next session so people can go do some work in the community and then come back and be ready for that discussion. Here's an example of the community report card that we send people home with in session 2, so they can go out in the community and discuss with others in the community what aspects are important to them. So how communities are using this program, sometimes it's absolutely as a standalone effort. They're looking for something to get something moving in the community, which is, it's a great way to do that. But also it might be a piece of maybe a community is working on a strategic plan, and this would be a nice tie-in with things that are happening. Okay, I'll turn it over to Ken.
Thanks, Jodi. We have done this program in the 7 pilot communities originally, but we've added communities to that now. And some of the outcomes are very interesting, and there's been some intended and unintended outcomes. And one of the ways we captured that activity or the outcomes of that process is ripple effect mapping. Many of you are probably familiar with this process, but it involves an appreciative inquiry, allows participants to actively participate in letting us know what happened because the program was in their community. This is sort of the nuts and bolts of the process. We ask what happened as a result of Marketing Hometown America in your community, what efforts or actions in the community came and were linked to the program. And so you can hear some more of the questions, and we finish with what do you think is the most significant change on the map. And this next slide is simply a actual map of where we did ripple mapping of Marketing Hometown America. And I know you can't really read the words, but if you've ever attempted ripple effect mapping, you know it's a messy process. the maps get crazy and cluttered, but the participants leave energized, and often it said, wow, I didn't realize we did so much. It's a great process to be able to capture what happened with the particular program. We did this ripple mapping process with the 7 pilot communities. We have in our plans to go back and do. A community takes this on, that they'll allow us to come back and do some analysis, some research on what happened when we did that. In the 7 pilot communities, we found and we mapped the outcomes on the community capitals framework, and the biggest capital that was marked out here was social. You would think that is what should come out, and it did. I mean, when you get people working on a project together where you're in study circles, those networks grow stronger in the community, and that's a great thing. And it shows the power of this program and the ability to connect people around a central goal of inviting new people to their community. The themes that we saw from the ripple mapping process as we came together, and you see on this image on this slide, we put all the maps from the different communities up on the wall, and we started looking at the different outcomes, and we came up and these themes sort of bubbled up out of this distilling of all the things that happen in these communities. The 2 that are in green in the bubbles here are what you would think would happen. You would have marketing actions where maybe someone improved a website or sent out marketing materials, and you would think they would sort of spruce up their town with the amenity improvements. But these 4 in blue are some things that we didn't really plan, intend to happen, but they were unattended good consequences, like the youth adult engagement, the expanded leadership. This program provided a low-cost way of getting involved in the community, where newer people that aren't typically involved, not the same 10 people, were involved in this process. If we keep going around clockwise there, an increased networking. Those networks grew stronger. One community was meeting, and a young mothers and mothers-to-be group were in one study circle. Well, when that study circle ended, that process, the marketing hometown process ended, they wanted to keep meeting as a young mothers group, so they formed their own young mothers group. So that's increased networking. And then expanded civic awareness and community spirit. We saw actions happen that people were sort of changed the attitude about their community. They gained community spirit. They wanted to improve their community. It's like the dominant conversation is our community is dying, but this conversation helped them to realize that people do want to live in our community, and they wanted to increase that probability by sprucing up their community, and they got excited about their community once again. We shared the program with Minnesota Extension. We went up there in August and trained the trainer type session, and some of the folks on the call could tell us how that's going in the chat box, but we have heard that they are ready to kick off some communities with that Marketing Hometown America now. So if you want more information, if you have questions, you can find these links here in our PowerPoint. They will be made available to you after the session here. But this outcome video sort of gives a good summary, and created a nice electronic magazine that has several video links and it's a great resource of getting to know and understanding the program and process better. Do we have any questions now?
Looks like we had a comment in the chat that there's been a pilot up there in process right now, and they've got a few more communities interested in starting it in the year. So we're kind of excited to see how this plays out in Minnesota. Should be fun.
Yes.
Do you have any questions? We went through a lot of different things pretty quick.
This is Mark, Cheryl. I was wondering, some of the communities have some strength, and other communities might not have. They might be struggling more. Which communities seem to really does this program resonate to? Does it also help those communities that are really struggling, in a deep way, as well as those who are sort of, looking for something to revitalize their community?
Well, I guess I'll start off, and then I'll let Jodi and Kenny also make some comments. In Nebraska, we've seen a lot of different kind of situations, different communities, and actually we even have had a county go through the program that just completed it, and we have another county that'll be starting the program in January. So we've had some very small communities participate. Actually, in our pilot, this is in North Dakota, we had several communities sort of band together and do it as a bit of a region. So in terms of size, I'm not so sure there's any restrictions. Quite often, this seems to fit with communities that maybe don't have a lot of full-time development people, but that's not necessarily the case because we've seen it happen and come out quite well where there has been. So, Kenny or Jodi, do you have any comments?
I just think there's no cookie cutter community that's right for this. One of the communities close to where I live has not typically been aggressive, one of those real mover and shaker kind of communities. And I think Kenny said it best when he talked about the unintended consequences. If anything that comes out of this is just simply a conversation about the great things happening in your community, they've already won.
Right.
And so I see that happening. Just because even people that have lived in a community for 25, 30, 35 years are amazed at some of the things that people think are really wonderful about it. And so if anything, it's a refresher for people who have lived in a community and gets them really revived about just how great their community is. And they just forget that because we look at the same.
Thanks. For those who participants, just want to remind you that you can ask a question in the chat area if you'd like. While you're thinking about that, we really appreciate your feedback, so you can see the webinar summary evaluation here. And so we really appreciate it if you'll take a moment and click on those and give us feedback.
Mark, I might just mention that one of the things that allowed us to really able to pull the research pieces together and kind of combine this into a program that can be used at the community level was we had the opportunity to apply and receive a Rural Futures Institute grant from the University of Nebraska. And so that was a great glue to really pull the research pieces together for us and to really spark this working on a 3-state level as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate the background research that is a part of all of this, so thanks for sharing that as well. Well, I don't see, it looks like Kim is typing a question here in the chat, so we'll wait for her.
while Kim was typing, I'll say something about sort of that question that was thrown out earlier. A participant in one of the communities here in South Dakota said, you know, I've been part of several economic community development type processes, and he said a lot of times those are focused on businesses and attracting businesses and that sort of thing. He said, but you know, sometimes when you already have a restaurant in town and you think you might want to recruit another restaurant, you're already creating an enemy by including competition into the community. He said, but this program enables you to go a step below that, more foundational. When more people live in the town, everyone benefits. And I thought that was pretty profound, and I appreciate that, and I always remember that. And that's what this program really seeks to do, is try to strengthen the town and get the town to think about what it would look like to have more people living in their town as we deal with the out-migration issue in many rural places.
Well, good. I see Kim has got a shout out to all of you from RFI, so thanks for that, Kim. I don't see anybody typing anything else, so thank you, Cheryl, Jodi, and Kenny, for the great presentation and sharing what's happening with Marketing Hometown America. Really good stuff. So I think we'll sign off for now, and thanks again, everyone, for taking time out.